Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Power Spike. We're on the cusp of all the regions kicking off their seasons with LPL already started. And as of this recording, Isma is running it down in the LEC. dGon here alongside Dom and Jamada. Welcome, guys. It's been a nice little break after first stand and a little bit of best of ones, double round robin in the LPL, a little North America in there, Dom.
Yeah, it's been interesting, man. There's been a lot of a lot of really interesting things that have been happening in the LPL because of the changes to the meta. This is the first time that LPL has had no lane swaps, obviously, because lane swaps were moved right before first stand. And yeah, there's just been a lot of like really crazy things that have happened, like Nefiri getting turbo buffed, Gwen getting turbo buffed, and now it's everyone trying to figure out how broken these champions really are. So yeah, that's what we've been dealing with right now.
Yeah, how have you been, Jamada?
Good. I've been relaxed. I've basically done, I'll be honest, the bare minimum. I've been checking into LPL, making sure I'm up to date with the meta, and kind of along the same lines of Dom, it's just seeing how the LPL teams are limit testing these new broken picks, but also some of the like kind of mid lane shifts as well. We're seeing a lot more priority on things like some of the global mids, kind of making more and more appearances like the Rise and Galio and things like this, kind of frequently appearing a little bit more. Still kind of sucks that we've gone to best of ones for this portion of the LPL. I think that's probably going to be the general sentiment whenever we have the best of ones in now. But it's still been fun enough to keep up with because that is just the nature of the LPL. It's just shit slinging for the sake of shit slinging a lot of the time. So it's hard not to love.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said last week that you were gonna just kind of sign off for a little bit and take some space. So I'm glad that you were able to stick to it and do that because a lot of the time, and people don't, I guess, think about this too often. Like what Dom does, you're just grinding day after day,
Yeah.
match after match. You just don't have the opportunity to detox.
Yeah. No, it's been crazy recently because not only are the LPL games like 6-7 hours, I've also been trialing for the Ready Sack, so I've been jumping in and like coaching that team a little bit as well. So that's like 2 to 3 hours, and then I have like 6 hours of scrims for C9 afterwards every single day. So it's like it's pretty much like I just get zero break these days.
Yeah, yeah, it is nonstop. Well, speaking of that, that's a perfect transition to this week's Sack Tap as we check in with Dom and his team situation over with Ruddy Sack. Gone are world's finalists. Gone are the esteemed champions. Gone is Hums. Hums no longer there either. And you decided to go with a roster a little bit more familiar and kind of picking talent through this tryout process. What was that like, and how'd you end up with the roster that you ended up with?
I mean, we just essentially just did trials like the old teams where you just actually try out people and see if personalities matched and if the team would actually vibe together. People wanted to play with each other, stuff like that. Where with Ready Sack, when you're getting all these really big popular names, you're getting like a bunch of LEC names on paper. There's not really a tryout process. It's like, yeah, do you want to be on the team? And if the answer is yes, cool, you're on the team. But this time we're trying a more like we're trying a different approach because we want people to have like a similar vision with how the team should operate, with how the content should be, with how the performance should be, how much we want to scrim. We want the players to have like the desire to actually place well. So it's just a team that I think will be much more likable. I don't think that many people want to watch a bunch of players that used to be good not really trying that hard. Like it didn't seem like that was content. And that's kind of what it ended up being last time, right? So that's something that we're trying to change. And I think that the roster we have is actually pretty fun. I like the players. They all seem really like motivated to improve, to play well. And we think that everyone is way more aligned now on what the vision of the Ruddy Sack is compared to last split.
I have two very important questions before we carry on. The
No,
first
no,
one
we're
is
staying on this for a while. You're good.
good. All right, fantastic. Any words? Because maybe again I've been a little bit plugged out. Any direct words for Mr. Yankos, also known as you know
The Judas.
Judas, leaving you guys, going over to Nord. Maybe I've missed it. Maybe you already had some words on stream, but maybe for directly the listeners here Power Spike because it's a big move, big move going over from Ruddy over to your other direct competitor in the league.
Well, to be honest, like I think that we're fine with where we landed. Like I think Natty Nat is somebody who's really good. Like he's somebody who's just super high rated all the time. In solo queue, he's somebody who is always like try harding. He played in NLC. He did well in NLC last time he was there as well. So yeah, I'm happy that we ended up getting Natty Nat for Yankos. I think that the reason why he left, like he just said that essentially he wanted to be on the team if Hums was on the team. When Hums is no longer on the team, he didn't want to be on the team anymore, so he just ended up leaving because of that. But I mean, I think it makes sense. Like he didn't really we weren't really involved in the process. It was just kind of like one day Yankos was like, hey, by the way, I'm leaving for Nord, and we're like, all right, well, all right, see ya. Like that was pretty much it. But to be honest, Yankos is just somebody who's people have this perception of like us being like really good friends or something like that. It's like I know Yankos, he's an acquaintance. I'm not I don't think he owes me anything. I don't think that he has any reason to do right by us or anything like that. He should just do whatever's right for himself, and he thinks that joining Nord is better for his brand, his career. So that's what he decided to do. Like it just is what it is.
Yeah, very, very parasocial that last bit, isn't it? Everyone thinks everyone's friends with everyone. No one knows the innards of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You touched on the Hums. I'm kind of doing this like I'm interviewing you, which I don't mind. Who is gonna fill the massive content void left behind that is just Hums existing in a competitive environment?
Bro, it's gotta be Gathan, bro. It's gotta be Gathan. Yeah, like this guy is just content, man. He's just content. Like he's got catchphrases and everything. Every time he's always like, got you. Like he just says that to like everything, man. Like people are like, yo, this guy's coming to got you. And then like apparently in LFL2, people sent me clips where like they like won a game. He's like throwing up fucking signs and shit. It's like, oh my god, this guy is hyped. So yeah, no, I think he's definitely gonna be the one that fills the void for us.
I think my question goes back to the roster building. Was there someone that was in first and you're like, okay, we're building around these guys? Because it feels very difficult to not have a rock that you build upon, especially when the whole roster was turned over.
Yeah, I mean, it was essentially just Natty and Peng. It was like Natty and Peng were the first two in, and then we had Nada in there as well. And then top lane, we had like a couple different names that we were thinking about. Like one was Kerberos. I don't know if you guys know him, but he kind of like, I think he's like kind of like getting out of like the streaming grind. Like he doesn't want to like be grinding as hard. So we're like, okay, that's fine. Then we got Gathon, and then Marlon came in later on. So that was kind of like the formation of the roster. It was like Natty, Peng, and Nada were like first, and then we ended up like looking at tops and supports. Trialed a few different supports. I think we trialed like 3-4 different supports, and this is where we ended up.
Awesome. Lastly, it's early. Have you seen scrims yet? Have you seen scrims?
Yeah, I was brother. I just said I coached the scrims. Like what the fuck?
No,
I coached them with my eyes closed.
Not only that, as a matter of fact, at the time of this recording, they're scrimming right now on stream.
Yep.
They're down 1,000 gold and 2 dragons. And your junglers died 4 times on Sejuani in 16 minutes, as well as your new content machine.
Yep.
Gathan fought. Any comments? It might not be
we'll
fully
see, bro.
multitasking
We'll see. This might be our first loss. We haven't lost a scrim yet. We've been scrimming against some pretty decent teams. So
okay.
I guess the question I was going with was, what is the early bar expectation for this squad this early? We can revise it later, but by putting this roster together, what is knowing that you also have got the rats over there as well. You've got Bulldog still there, the kryptonite to this roster, to this organization.
I think like top 3 would be the expectation. Like top 3, top 4. Like top 4, I think worst case, top 3, like if we do pretty well, anything more than that is like really good overperformance.
Okay. All right. There it is. Early sack tap for everyone involved in the Ruddy Sack with team owner. IWillDominate. Good work. Good work, Jamada. I was enjoying you just go journalist mode there.
Hey,
your voice changed a little bit. You got a little bit more.
Do you know what it is? I interact with so many different people. I code switch a lot, bro. Like it's hard for me to not do. Like no. I'm dead serious, because you have like this is as close to like standard me as you'll probably get like with a mic in front of me. On top of a broadcast, I've got to go a little bit more traditional, remove the ends, the ghetto out of my accent a little bit, like cleaner English so that more people can understand. Usually I'm on European broadcasts, right? If I spoke like how I normally speak with my friends, I don't think everyone's gonna understand me all the time. So like I change it up, no matter the environment.
What would that sound like? Remove the ends, but I want to hear what it sounds like.
Well, it's just
Actually,
it's just me,
do
it's just
whatever
me
you
on a
want.
broadcast. It's just me on a broadcast, mate. Like if you ever hear me on broadcast, that is usually the as close to King's English as you'll get out of me.
No. What I'm saying is that. So that's you when you're with your friends. That's you.
Yeah,
that's the same.
Yeah. Or if you ever hear me talking with Don Jake, that's me.
Oh
That's
God. Okay.
that's what it is.
All right. Well, appreciate it. Good job, and we'll see what the Ruddy Sack does in the future. Speaking of future, if you've been planning for a healthier you, there's no better time than now to take charge of your health than with our friends over at AG1. Just like people declutter their homes in March, it's also a great time to refresh your nutrition and daily habits. Feeling refreshed and ready starts in your gut, and the pre and probiotics in AG1 helps you support your digestion. So again, you've heard us talk about it all the time here on Power Spike and across the Last Free Nation network. It helps us with our energy in the morning, helps us with our gut health, going regularly. It is a great way to start the day, be a part of me being healthy and taking it with other supplements as well. It tastes great compared to many other drinks that say they are great for you. And it's been just part of our daily routine here. So when it comes to my health, I want something that I can trust. That's why all of us here choose AG1. With science-backed ingredients and real benefits, we can feel AG1 makes it easy to support overall wellness every day. And that's why we've been partnering for AG1 for so long. And AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle, and a D3K2 bottle with shots in it, as well as 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to start your new year off on a healthier note. Thanks to our friends over at AG1.
I mean, you can trust AG1. I can tell you what you can't trust. Joe Marsh. Let's get into the next segment. Let's get into the next segment. I'm fucking ready.
It's fraud alert. Fly the segment. We can't go a week without talking about T1. Last week, it was the executive decision by CEO Joe Marsh to start Gumayusi over Smash. I forgot his name because they're starting to remove his name and comments and references from the T1 membership group. Like they're getting cleaned out.
Wow.
Yes, I heard about that today. My girlfriend was translating again. She just gets fed these things in YouTube now. She's not even a T1 fan; she's a Hanwha fan. But it is such big news that they get fed to her in her YouTube Shorts and her Instagram Reels, and so the comments are getting removed. People are upset about the erasure, but that is not the only thing they're upset about. Like right after we recorded our episode, a bombshell was dropped by ThePlay agency, which was the agency that represents Zayus, about the timeline of claims that were made by T1. So basically, I mean, I feel like if you've been on League Reddit or anywhere, you have the timeline of things. But there was a Reddit post and a very popular, one of the most popular lawyers in all of Korea was reached out to by the Play agency to get this information out. So this is why when people are like, why are they not letting this thing die? It's because the Play agency was like, hey, we didn't get our justice. Here's the things that happened. We went to the Korean esports, there was like a Korean esports
like a fairness commission.
Yeah,
fairness
commission to like, prevent like weird stuff happening. And there has been no response by T1. So therefore, the only thing left to do to clear our name as an agency, because that is what our business is built upon. It's upon trust. We need to go to this massive YouTuber. So imagine if someone went to Kai Cenat and was like, Kai Cenat, I need you to clear my name. And so this lawyer goes, wow, well, I need content, so let's do it. And they go through all the information that Hanwha Life has, all these text messages, timestamps, emails, call history. They redact like specific contractual information, like the amount of money the offers were, the salary stuff, but they have all the timelines there. And so this is where this information comes from. And basically, in order, it doesn't look great for T1. They go through 5 clear statements that T1 made and go through each one kind of debunking these statements that T1 made, except one of them, which was T1 said there was tampering, or they may have been tampering, alluded to that there was tampering. That one, obviously, they can't prove, but T1 could. And if T1 proved it, this YouTuber said, then everything else in this, these claims is moot point, because if there was tampering, none of this would have happened. But otherwise, T1 was not given an opportunity to make a counteroffer. That was not true. That was not true. They were able to give a counteroffer. And so they go through all these different things that, they didn't even have, there was no real timeline for Hanwha Life to set upon Zeus. That wasn't true, because Hanwha Life did set a timeline. Again, they have the emails and call histories and text history from all these teams that were reaching out to the play agency to see if Zeus was interested in joining. He said he only wanted to stay in LCK. There was only one team that was making that move, and that was Hanwha Life Esports. If they waited for T1 rather than sign with Hanwha Life Esports, Hanwha Life could have signed with someone else. Then T1 could have theoretically not signed Zeus, rare, but not signed Zeus, signed Doran, signed Bin, I don't know. And then Zeus is left without a team in the LCK, which is crazy. And so they did what was in the best interest at that time with the information that they had, and gave 3 or 4 different opportunities for T1 to counteroffer. And one of the major holdups was that T1's original offer was way lower than his current value. And then their next offer, lower still. Their next offer, lower still. Their last offer got it close, because they said, hey, if it's close, respectable, I'm down to play with T1, but I want more years. He wanted more years, and in the world of League, generally 2 years is good, maybe 3 years. I remember Cloud9, you can look at the contract database. Cloud9 would sign their players to longer deals, but because they were Cloud9 players, Jack was more than willing to sell them to other teams later on if he needed to, and teams were willing to pay for it because there was a lack of North American talent. And so maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years is the most that an org would want. So that means Zeus maybe wanted more than 3 years or maybe more. Not exactly sure, but either way, they did not land on it. He signs with Hanwha Life Esports. They move on. And so all this comes out. Everyone's looking at T1 to make a statement. Everyone's looking at T1 to do something. And the move that they make through a T1 representative, not Joe Marsh, is that that was the opinion of Joe Marsh in that AMA, not necessarily a him stating facts, because things had happened in the past. So there's a whole lot to unpack here, Dom. So you feel probably the strongest here. Let's start with you. Where do you want to start with all of this stuff that happened since our last episode? It's been a week now.
Well, when you're reading the statements, because the way that this ended up coming out was that ThePlay made this statement after 3 months, and everything that they did was very careful. If you look at the words that they chose, everything was pretty much as respectable as possible. When they would disagree with something, they would be and we disagree because of this. And for example, they showed an excerpt from the contract that said this is the way that they actually make money. With the Zeus's contract, it has nothing to do with them getting percentages of his overall contract when he's sold to different teams, or when he decides to play for different teams. And then you look at like the T1 response, and the T1 response is just like, it's just trying to explain to you what words mean. It's like very fucked up. It's like, by the way, when we said this is an opinion, by the way. It's not actually like us making a statement or saying that this is a fact. So this is what an opinion is. It's like, do you think I'm a fucking retard? When I'm reading this, that's what I thought. I'm like, they must think that I'm a fucking retard, or whoever's reading it is a retard. There's no other way that you would be like, this is technically what an opinion is. When I say this, it's a fucking opinion. It's just lies, man. It's just lies. They think that there's no context to everything that they said. Joe Marsh went on that AMA to answer fans the second that Zeus ended up getting signed to Hanwha Life, leaving T1 and getting signed to Hanwha Life. The second that happened, Joe Marsh did an AMA. And in the AMA, he started talking about like, well, you know how it is, man. Some of these agencies are really greedy and they'll do fucked up things that are against the best interests of the player. They say stuff like this. It's like, what do you think the context is here? Who are we supposed to be? Who are we supposed to think you're talking about when you just had an agency move a player from T1 to Hanwha Life? Like, there was an agency in charge of that negotiation.
Here's the quote, just to cover ourselves. There have been past instances where financial gains were prioritized over what's best for the player. That's what started this whole thing off.
Yes. And he says this in an AMA right after Zeus is moved to Hanwha Life. So like, if that was not the context, why would you not clarify? But in this case, it was actually fine. Like, why? Like, if you wanted to make that statement, obviously people are going to take it as meaning that in this situation, the agency of Hanwha Life cares about financial gain over the best interests of Zeus. There's no other way that any human that is tuning into AMA the second after big news is broke is going to take that information. Like, no one else would think, oh no, I mean, I'm sure this has no correlation to what just happened. He just decided to make this statement because, 7 years ago, there was a situation where an agency prioritized financial gain over the best interests of a player. So he makes a statement, and then afterwards, they say, oh, by the way, this is just Joe Marsh's evaluation, and this constitutes as an opinion. Okay, nice. Yeah, so we think that this is just like an evaluation. So if I say something really fucked up from now on, if I ever get canceled, just know that was just an evaluation. What I was saying constitutes as an opinion. So, hey, I'm good on all fronts. So the thing that I hated the most about it is Joe Marsh is so money hungry. It's so obvious based off every move that they make. Even if you just look at like how T1 operates their organization, when they do things like T1 Pop, like what is the motivation behind all these things that they do when they try to generate fandom? They're trying to generate fandom in order to make more money, right? They do all these things that other organizations don't do in order to make extra money. They fly their players around. That's why it's so hard to be a T1 player, because you have so many sponsorship activations all over the place, right? And then you think about the idea of him being like, oh, but I just do right by my players. Like other people prioritize financial gain over the best interest of a player. And the thing that was so sick to me is like, think about Smash's life. Being somebody who is an aspiring League of Legends pro growing up in Korea. What was his life probably like when he was like 6 years old? Faker is winning a world championship, maybe even 5 years old. Faker's winning a world championship. If you start playing League in Korea, who do you think you're going to idolize? Who do you think is going to be like your favorite player most likely? Everyone in Korea loves Faker. Faker is like one of the most popular people in Korea, like Koreans, period. He's like a GOAT Korean of like all time, right? Like not just League of Legends, just he's a GOAT Korean. So you spend your life training. You finally get good enough to play on a team like T1. You go there and you start performing. And then some person comes into the room, and the information that you get, once you figure out everything, once you place everything, the information that is obvious to you, just like to everyone else, is that the reason you're not allowed to play on this team with probably one of your heroes growing up is because you're not popular enough. The reason you can't compete is because you're not popular enough. How fucking bad must that feel? Just be like, yeah, I guess you're just like a piece of shit, I guess. Like, oh, my bad, bro. I should have been I was trying to be the best player possible this entire time, training in T1 Academy. Why would he think that he needs to be more popular, that's the thing he should be grinding, as opposed to like getting his skills to the point where he could be the best player possible? Because it's not like Guma came in with some massive brand on T1. He wasn't insanely popular when he joined T1. He was a new player that was like, that people were like hyped on. They're like, oh shit, this kid's kind of cracked. Oh, by the way, do you know that like his brother played StarCraft? Like that was what you heard about Gumayushi back when he came in. He wasn't some player that had a massive brand. He wasn't a huge streamer or anything like that. So the idea would be that, hey, if I become good enough to be on the team, maybe Guma goes to another team, whatever happens, maybe Guma just like retires at some point, I become the player. If you're playing under him, you're assuming if I'm on that team and I play well, that's what's going to drive all the success. That's what's going to, drive the fact that people want to watch me and what's going to make my stream numbers grow. It's because I'll be part of the best team in the world and I'm going to try my best to win. So the fact that like this kid gets kicked off the team essentially for not being popular enough, and then you have to hear the CEO talk about like, caring about players so much and like, oh, like what's in the best interest of a player. It's so fucking slimy. It's like, it's incredibly disgusting to me. That's what I've been saying about Joe Marsh. He represents everything that I hate about what esports has become, that it's no longer like a competitive sport. It's more just about trying to make as much money as possible. And these fucking like 18-year-old Korean kids are just treated like pieces of shit, like just replaceable as fuck. It's like they're parts in a fucking machine as opposed to like a real human being that actually has talent. Like it used to be that talent is what fucking mattered in this game. And now it's just like, yeah, we're just trying to keep the K-pop fandom alive. And, like that's disgusting in and of itself, just that idea. But then the lying on top of it just makes it incredibly repulsive to me. So, yeah, I just can't stand this guy. I just think that he's such a piece of shit. Every time I see anything about him, like it's so easy for me to see through it because around the same time, all these people got into esports once they realized that there was a lot of money in it. It's not like Joe Marsh is somebody who was in esports in like 2011, 2012, and he was like, oh yeah, I really believe in this industry and I grow with it. He came into an industry when it was like booming already and was essentially, because of his relationship with Comcast, put in a position, with T1. And then now he's just treating it as, a businessman would treat a business, which I think is like, obviously you want to like have a profitable business, but the way that they went about it is not in like the spirit of competition, which is what professional League of Legends is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a competition, especially at the highest level, right? Like content teams are different. If you're in like a tier 2, whatever, that's a whole different thing than if you're competing to try to be like winning world championships. So everything that Joe Marsh said at the beginning of his time in esports, like when he would essentially just say things that would look down on like NA organizations and NA like owners and stuff, I found that in horrible taste. Like, you're an American guy, number one. Just because you're an American guy and you were with Comcast and that company merged with T1 and then you ended up being the CEO of T1, and like the fact that that somehow means that more, or like you're just better than the org owners, like like Jack, Big Steve and in TL, that you're better than them because your organization has had more success. You should understand the industry enough to know that like no North American, it doesn't matter how good of a fucking owner you are. If Joe Marsh became the owner of FlyQuest or something like that, FlyQuest is not winning world championships because he has so much knowledge on how to run something. So like that already smelled like fishy. It's like, why the fuck is this guy talking like this? Why is he have this like ego that seems unjust? It feels like stolen valor. It's like, oh, T1 was a really great organization. Then you join it. And suddenly now, look at like, there's a reason why Western teams don't win. Yeah, it's because of a lot of things. It's because of infrastructure. It's because of how many people play the game. It's because of the popularity of the sport. There's so many different things you could go to. And like trying to make it seem like you're better than the other owners because you're like on T1 and they're not. I just find that like really distasteful in a way. And then every time that I've seen this stuff, it's just so slimy. Like, how can people not see through it? This guy is the biggest fucking mark, man. Like, it's so sad to me that there's people that will even try to defend him. If you're a T1 fan, why would you like this? Why is this important to you? Like, this guy, all the decisions don't even make sense. Why would you even vocalize the fact that you're the one that kicked Smash off the team and you're the one that brought Guma back? What the fuck is the point of that? The point of that is that people are like, wow, I'm a Guma fan and you did the right thing. Good job, Joe Marsh. That's the only reason you get public favor with the Guma fans. That's the only reason you do it. There's no other way. You've undermined your coaching staff publicly in order to show like how good you are for the company. And then like this situation afterwards, like this situation that just came out, like trying to tell you what English words mean. It's like, get the fuck out of here, man. I don't need to know what an opinion is, or, oh, that's an evaluation technically. It's like, oh, Dom, you're just like a fucking like super pale crack addict. Like, fuck you. By the way, that was just my evaluation of you. Can't get mad at me. That constitutes a fucking opinion. It's like, oh, thank you, man. Thank you, man. I guess we could just say that now. It feels like politics of the United States. That's how I felt about it. It feels like when a politician comes out and just
kind of words, brother.
and they just say this fucking bullshit, and you just have I'm not even saying I'm just saying politics in general. It's the same type of shit where it's like, do you really think that I'm so stupid that I'm going to believe what you're telling me right now? Like, do you really believe that I am going to sit here and be like, yeah, you know what? I guess he just wasn't talking about that. It's like they're just trying to trick you. They're like, technically, I didn't say anything that was directly meant that I was talking about the Play agency and the Zeus situation. If you open the live stream, it's like, okay, nice, man. I don't know. I just hate the whole thing. And then this, somebody in my comment section said that it was the equivalent of when streamers say this guy should get cancer in game. It's like the same type of thing. It's like he just essentially said in game at the end of his rant about Zeus and the agency. It's like, just kidding, bro. Just kidding. It was all a joke. I was talking about in a video game, in the business side. It's like, come on, bro. Come on. I can't stand it.
All right, Jamada, get it there, man. We've had long runs of it.
I don't think there's anything I can realistically say that hasn't been said on the topic. And I also will...
No, but we want to know what the fuck you think, Jamada. Look, this is the biggest news in League for the last year. Don't fucking start with, I don't know if there's anything I can say that can be said.
Look, because my opinion lies close-ish to Dom, and this is just a very traditionalist sports mindset, because it's my upbringing. I think more about the future of what precedent does this realistically set on the sense of competition and actually focusing on winning titles, cultivating good environments inside of a team setting. Because I look at decisions and specifically going back to the Smash and Guma thing, where it's like, okay, we have this promising talent. Guma, 4 or 5 years ago, promising talent. If we just said, fuck it, Guma's not famous enough, not popular enough, then just fucking kick him. And then we kept Teddy on T1. What does that T1 look like in 21, 22, 23, 24, right? Does it stay the same? Does it get there's no way that T1 lineup ends up doing the back-to-back, things like that, right? So I think more about the future of if decisions like this are going to be publicized, and then it's almost not to go back towards the direction of the politics thing, but it's so polarizing. There's almost there's a civil war going on amongst T1 fans right now, where it's there's T1 fans who are like, yeah, Joe Marsh is right, he's and then you've got the other side where it's well, they're basically kind of thinking how we're thinking, where it's Smash came in through the academy system, was doing well. Guma has to get benched for it because that's just the nature of League of Legends. And now we're just bending the knee to the fans simply because, in Dom's words, we're thinking about it as a business, right? But the business is in the players anyway. If you're not gonna cultivate future, investments, what the fuck is the point, right? You've not even given Smash the opportunity, in my opinion, given what he did last split, to stay, assuming now, obviously, we haven't seen what the setup is going to be for Split 2. Yeah? We don't know if Smash is going to be playing interchangeably with Guma, if it's going to be a driver rest situation with CFO, or whether Guma is just straight up going to be...
I mean, they said Guma is the starter. They're Guma is going to be the player. That is the problem, practice, right? In practice, they'll compete.
The way that they've now reframed it, or the way that effectively Joe Marsh has reframed it, is that Guma is now back in the starting spot, and Smash has to earn his way in. But to anyone that's watched the games, he's earned his way in. Realistically, he should be getting game time in games where maybe the stakes are a bit lower, or even if, again, even on a gameplay level, if you just eye test, there are things that Smash can do that Guma simply just can't do at a high enough level, seemingly to what's necessary for T1 at times, right? Particularly just the hyper carries that always get kind of brought up. Guma's not really your Zeri, your Kai'Sa, your hyper. He's not that guy, right? Just the fact of the matter, comparatively to the other ADs in the region. So to me, I just look at this and I go, what the fuck does this mean? Not only for T1 moving forwards, because if you're a young talent, do you even want to go to T1 anymore? You see what just happened to Smash? Do you even feel comfortable sitting in that academy team anymore? if you have a prospect offer from T1, do you just say fuck that and just stay playing solo queue as like a 15, 16-year-old? That's the kind of precedent that I worry about moving forward. Fuck all the fans and like the sentiment and everything else around it. I think more about to me, what's more important is like the career of a player going into systems like this. And I don't think other teams can really think or operate the way that T1 does because they've cultivated this culture now for years, right? So I think this is a very unique to T1 thing, in my opinion, fortunately, because if this was every team in the LCK or every team in the LP or every team, it would be a fucking nightmare. And I think we would probably see more of this happen, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's just a frustrating thing to even talk about, just because not only T1's handling, Joe Marsh's handling, but it's like, if you actually care about talent and you care about players, this is not the decision that you make. Not just for T1, not just for people, not just for the players sat in T1, but also for like the broader like league. That's just how I see it in my head. So I just sit here and throw my hands up in the air and I just get frustrated thinking that, cool, imagine now Smash just doesn't get to play. And we've potentially just passed over like a potential prodigy, right? And that could happen on cycle, time and time and time again. Because in T1's head, they just look at it as these players are basically our fucking parade dolls. We can just send them around doing all of our sponsor activations and making them basically like K-pop idols, right? As the primary, as opposed to the player function being the primary, right?
Yeah, well, okay, here, I've got a counter argument to what it could possibly be. And it's a list of players, right?
Mhm.
Armeo, remember Armeo?
Yeah.
Alltech, Stixay,
Mhm.
West Rice, Sheep, Benji, Solo, and then
Mhm.
this org changed their name. I can't believe this happened. Oh wait, no, that was the bench. That's why. Let me scroll. Keith McBreath, Think Card, Licorice, Rush, Contracts, Smoothie, Bunny, Lemon. He also went down there at the very end when they were having fun. That's Cloud9 Challenger / Cloud9 Tempest. For every player that I listed that was successful, did get an opportunity, and generally a lot of those players got opportunities not on Cloud9. There are a ton of players that you won't remember unless you like were deep in, NACL at the time. Yazuki, Kaz, Glebe Glarbu, Yusui, KT Smurf. Like, not everyone that makes it to the best team in the world will make it out. Not everyone that makes it into Manchester United, Real Madrid's farm system will make it out. So yes, there are going to be lots of times where players don't make it. So I think the system at T1 is going to be fine. I think the handling of the situation was terrible, but you're still going to go to T1 because it is T1 and you get access to all of that professionalism.
But are you going to do it if Faker's no longer there?
That's
like, are you going to do it if Faker is no longer there? Let's say Faker retires, and then it's like because this shit changes fast. By the way, like you could say the same thing about TSM 4 or 5 years ago, right? You'd be like, oh man, are you not going to go to fucking TSM because it's TSM, bro? Like Bjergsen's there, and then the org doesn't even exist. Like after 3 years, the org doesn't even exist anymore, right? So. I mean, I feel like this shit changes fast, and the main attraction to be on T1 is because Faker is there. Like the systems and everything are great, but most people want to go to T1 because they have the ability to potentially play with Faker, learn from Faker, whatever. Like if Faker leaves, popularity instantly goes down. And the other thing about roster building, since we were talking about the Guma situation,
Ruddy Sack. Oh, Guma.
Oh, good.
No, the Guma situation, you have Guma and Doran, which I don't think stylistically makes sense on the team. You essentially have like 2 weak sides. If you remember like how this iteration of T1 was playing, Faker had to take more like this last split. He had to take more resource. He had to be more of a carry threat in the game as opposed to being that playmaker. And when you think about what Guma's job was a lot of the time, he was extremely solid and he was able to like pick champions that allowed Carrier to pick his weird shit that might not be like the best in the situation in lane, but they'll get through it, and then Keria will like go around and take over the map. And that style works because you have a top laner like Zeus who could carry the entire game. Now when you have Doran, who's like a weak side top laner, essentially, like he's not going to be as good as players like Keen. He's not going to be as good as players like Zeus. He can maybe like take some lanes or go even, or like control them into a certain matchup, whatever. If you have like them, if you have that roster where it's like Faker, who wants to be a playmaker, can carry, but his priority is being a playmaker, then you have like, Doran on the roster, Guma on the roster. Where's your firepower coming from in this roster to like actually beat the top teams? Because the top teams have like a bunch of freaks on them, bro. Like the top teams, it's like we got Viper, Zika, and Zeus. Like one of these motherfuckers is probably going to carry the game. And like the people that are supportive are in the more supportive roles in general. I mean, you look at Gen G, even though Ruler hasn't been playing well, it's still Ruler, Chovy, and Keen. Like those are some pretty fucking solid carries. So I'm trying to wonder, like, if you do have Guma long term with Doran, how are they going to like win these big series, especially in like a fearless draft? Because I think that one of the advantages of T1 in previous years has been the fact at Worlds where they could like draft their own unique champions, and enemy teams would have to like ban it like every game, or they would get multiple like Renata games in the same series. That was a huge thing at the last Worlds. They'll just have their specific picks that they really like playing. Guma just plays a lot of the weak side AD carries like Varus, Ashe, Jhin. I mean, he does play Caitlyn, but Caitlyn was also like in spots where Carrier's Lux was going to be really good. So there was like a reason to like give the agency to somebody else on the team. And I just think in general, they just lack firepower, which is what I thought the idea of Smash being on the team was. Like, we have a mechanical freak. Yep. We can draft him things like Kai'Sa, Ezreal, whatever, and he's just going to take over games when he has gold. Like, he just has the mechanics to be able to do that. Whereas Guma's never been great at dash champions in general. Guma's never been good at Ezreal.
His Ezreal
Zeri,
was very
Kai'Sa.
bad. Yes,
his
Ezreal's very bad.
Yeah, I mean, he was nowhere close. Like, when you consider his Zeri, his Ezreal, his Kai'Sa, it's never been on the same level as somebody like Aiming, even, right? Like, Aiming's been better than him at all those champions. Viper's been better than him at all those champions. Ruler's been better than him at all those champions. It's just not like Guma champions. Guma's good at like the solid, like immobile, weak side champions. Like Guma's good at Xayah. He's good at Varus. He's good at Ashe. He's good at Caitlyn. Like those are his style champions. Maybe he can get like a good Jhin game. That's one of his champions. Draven in certain spots. Like he doesn't really play things with dashes super well. He normally like tries to be too aggressive with them, dies a lot. It's just not his style. Jinx was another champion that he's really good at. But yeah, like that's my general point is I just don't even think the team makes sense with Guma. So what, like now T1's just going to be a worse team, but I guess they'll be popular until that popularity eventually runs out. Like once you start losing, if they start losing consistently, I feel like then it becomes a bigger problem where it's like, I mean, the majority of T1 fans came from the fact that they were always good. They're always in the conversation to potentially win. And then they ended up winning world championships recently. Like this is where the ZOFGK roster really ended up being super, super popular. It's because they won world championships. If they had lost like early in Worlds in 2022, and then they lost again in 2023, then they lost again in 2024, they wouldn't have generated the fandom that they did. And they wouldn't be able to just rest on those world championships. So I don't know. For me, there's so many fucking problems with it, man. There's just way too many problems with the team and the way they're making decisions, and it just makes the team worse. Why am I fucking mad about T1 being worse? Like, how are they making a fucking hater and the fans aligned with their incompetence? Like, how the fuck did they fuck up so bad where their biggest hater and their fans are aligned and being like, you guys are doing some dumb shit? Like, what the fuck?
You wanted to see them fail of their own merit, not due to like self-implosion like that. That had nothing to do with play. I think
I want to see like real downfall. You know, it's like if they have downfall for some other reason, like I don't like it. Like if Faker's injured and then they lose, I'm like, what the fuck? Like I don't want that shit to happen. Like I want like the downfall to be.
I want them to lose fair and square. I want them.
I want real downfall where like the fans just have to accept that the team is just worse than other teams. You know, like that's what I want. I want the fair downfall.
You know what?
dGon
brought up Manu earlier. You want to see T1 turn into the Korean Manu. You might not get that. dGon will get it. dGon. Wait, dGon, do you support Manu?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. This is gonna float over the heads of a lot of international fans, and I apologize. But that's what Dom wants to see. He wants to see one of the crown jewels of the region just collapse. But collapse in a way that's grueling and slow and almost inevitable because of like just genuine poor performance, and in Manu's case, it was like incompetence, above the players.
Well,
Hey, I mean, we're kind of seeing it right now, I guess.
We're kind of seeing it right now. Like,
Yeah, like
this is a great example.
Look, if downfall is short, it's less fun. Like I want to be, like I'm like with T1 downfall, I'm like the LCK fans that come to my chat to ask me if like LCK is still better than LPL every single day, and they just like jerk off to it. They're like, tell me how good the LCK is, and I'm like, I think the LCK is better, man. I like the LCK. They're like, yeah, you fucking like the LCK, you motherfucker. Like they do this shit like perma in my chat. I'm like that with T1 downfall, where it's like I want to like slow stroke the T1 downfall for like a long period of time. Like I want it to be like, oh, I get to enjoy some downfall this morning. Oh, a week later I get some more downfall. Like I want to just gently like get more and more downfall until I reach the climax of downfall.
God. All right.
Is that too much to ask? Like, I mean, like, is this just not the most normal emotion in the world? Like, what do you want from me?
Let's keep going on this. I know that we had other things planned, but there are a couple of different angles, especially with the Guma thing that you brought up, and also the Manchester United like reference. For reference, Manchester United's head coach and like leader of the org stepped down, retired because that was it. His body couldn't do anymore, and
he was.
You can kind of see that happen with RNG and Uzi. You can imagine that's what might happen to T1 when Faker steps down. And then they were bought by an American owner that owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Glazers, and that's their name, and the Glazer family. It's a family Glazers. Yeah, I don't know. And then they basically took out money against the club. So like they're like, hey, banks, we have this very valuable asset. Give us money and we'll use the asset as collateral. And because of that, have put the club into debt. And it has prevented them from being able to sign the biggest, the best, make updates to the grounds and the facilities for over a decade now, probably about like 12 years. And because of these financial constraints, and you lost your talisman and what made players amazing, it was a mixture of wrong hire here, wrong player here, injury here, and things not working out to a point where an organization that was so used to world championships, UEFA championships, being the best in the world, to now, I guess our example here in the LCK would be like hopefully making playoffs. Maybe making playoffs would be pretty good. You go from being T1 World Championships to like a Nongshim. You're like, oh, that was a pretty good run. We made it to fourth. Our social media manager has capitalized on it. That was pretty good. We're happy to be here. And maybe we're on the way back up to World Championships. Remember, Faker? That's kind of what it's like. And these missteps in management and PR here for T1 echo that analogy really, really well. And
do you know what makes it even better?
Worried.
Do you know what even makes it better to me? Is that in this stretch of, it's been, when did Fergie retire? 2011, right? Around
it's like 11 or 12. Yeah.
Since then, and sure, fuck it, we'll make that comparison. Faker is basically, he's Korean Alex Ferguson to T1.
Okay.
They have had a track record on top of everything that dGon has just listed of basically ruining young players' careers through poor managerial decisions. On repeat. It is like every single year there is almost a player a year who you could point at and go, this guy had all of the qualities, all of the talent. And obviously football was a lot more multifaceted than league in terms of there's 11 air quotes, different positions to play. There's more than that even technically. And they have just like, and it's not even young players. It's like kind of half-made players too. Even some of the players that they bought that were kind of in the middle.
So like Doran?
Yeah, like even your Doran, even your Dorans, because like
really
you think about like, okay, I'm gonna list off some football lore, and I apologize again. This is gonna go past some of our listeners, unless you're like maybe European, but like they signed players like Sanchez, Angel Di Maria. They had Schweinsteiger, though Schweinsteiger was properly at the like. He was at the end of his career.
Varane, Casemiro recently.
Yeah, Casemiro. They have had all of these like world like quality players, and then they
currently Mason Mount. Phil
right?
Jones.
And
Oh
then
my god,
they
dude.
come to the club and they just shit the bed, and it's
You
usually
want the young
because-
kids? Adnan Yanazai.
Oh,
What's his name?
Oh
Federico
my God.
Makeda. Like,
Bro,
yes, I've been
and
a
then-
fan for a long time, bro.
Yeah, and then you even think about more recently, like I mean, Rashford getting handled poorly for years was like a really big thing. Paul Pogba, another one. The point being, I could go on for ages here, and that's where my point of view actually comes from. That's what I'm worried about with T1 when decisions like this happen from the top down.
So what you're telling me is I need to start rooting for Man U downfall, and I'll be a very happy man.
You should be rooting for a Man U level downfall.
Yeah, you
For
don't even
T1.
like a team in the Premier League. You dislike. You're actively disliking a team in the Premier League that had a lot of history, way
Yeah.
too many championships, but still, the satisfaction to seeing them just struggle is there. In
What is being
5
an
years.
Arsenal fan like in LCK terms?
Pain.
KT?
Fuck me, KT.
KT?
Yeah.
KT.
Yeah, KT.
Yeah,
You're a
KT,
KT
100%.
fan.
you're like a KT fan. It's
I'm-
kind
I'm-
of respectable, to be honest.
I'm an Arsenal fan, so I know, like, whenever I see like
Yeah.
Law get upset about KT, like just shit in the bed for the nth time, I'm like, I'm there with you, big sis. I get it. Like, yeah, it's. I can't believe it took so long to make this connection, dGon. I really
It's
can't.
pretty good.
But it's
I
pretty damn
love it.
good.
And like, I know if you were lost, know that these fans that are salivating on this like analogy have had to wait. So
Yeah.
this one works really well. Finally, a final point
Ugh.
that I wanted to get into, just with one of your points again, Dom, was the Guma isn't that guy kind of thing. I think all great players have had the opportunity, like the greatest have had the opportunity to redefine what they do and how they do it. Like Faker had to play fucking Lulu mid. Like he had to do that. That was what the meta was. He had to take the back seat. And then last season, he got to take the front seat, play the Silas, play the playmaking, and be extra firepower. And you kind of wonder, and I don't think that the fans that had this angle accepted the fact that like Smash was playing better with the team than Guma. But you have to wonder, if you believe you have one of the greatest AD carries of all time, definitely one of the winningest, you would give him the opportunity to step up and be that player, step up and be that guy, put in the hours into Ezreal, let your play with Caitlyn, with Ashe, with Varus suffer, so that you can play those dash champions. You can play on the knife's edge. Because you look over it, again, I love using Team Liquid as an example because it's really clear Jan can do this. And the team wins and dies by him playing Lucian in your face, Zeri in your face, dodging skill shots and trying to create openings there. And when Guma has done that historically, he hasn't looked great. But you can give him an opportunity to do that. This first split to do that.
I mean, I don't think it feels good
that's
for
one.
Guma. It doesn't feel good for Guma either.
Oh,
It's like, oh, I came in
no.
because I'm more popular. Nice. Like, you think Guma fucking feels great? Like, no one feels good except
No.
for Joe Marsh. He's like,
No.
I'm the savior. I saved Korea. And people are like, all right, man. Like, we don't really care about you still. Like, just back to your office. Like, it is what it is. Like, I mean, it
But
just
I
is
think-
what it, like, I don't know.
I think an
It's
opportunity
so
for him to
awkward.
become that player is like, that is an angle that I can understand. At least the way that happened, for sure. I agree. Not great. But giving him the opportunity to reinvent himself, like High or something, right? High start out the season start out his career playing the Assassins, being a carry, and then later on, clearly, we talk about his shot calling, his leadership. Afro, same kind of thing. These players that have played a very long time and had to reinvent themselves. I don't know if there are any other examples that both of you off the top of your head that you can think of that had to reinvent the way that they played and had success doing it.
I mean,
There's lane swap players, I guess, right? If you want to
Yeah, I mean,
be
there's-
super semantic about it, but I'm sure there's plenty.
I feel like there's a ton of players that end up just becoming more and more like just like clinical in their approach. Like, for example, Santorin is somebody who did that like
Yeah.
a ton. I mean, there's a lot of players that have followed that trajectory. A lot of people like 369, for example, is a good example of somebody who was a hard carry player that ended up transitioning to being, more stable. I feel like there's players in every role that have this type of transition, just because this is just once you actually learn the game, you don't want to have to flip games mechanically much anymore. You want it to be like a more stable approach towards victory. So yeah, I think it's like just the common trend of older players.
You know what though? I want to go back to the football thing for just a second.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Right. You think about it like this with T1, right? T1 last year, let's just say for argument's sake, they're playing a 4-3-3 with a false 9, right?
We're going
They-
pretty deep here, but you get go. Okay, keep
they
going.
don't need a big target man in the middle taking in crosses and heading the ball down into the net, right? This
Yeah,
year,
Can I
that's right.
follow this?
this year, they've now actually basically got a big guy, they've got a big target man, for
Smash.
argument's sake, in Smash, and all of a sudden they want to play 4-4-2, and they don't want to play down the wings. They want to go straight down the middle.
You 4-4-2. You attack the goal wide. 4-3-3 or 4-3-2-1.
Anything with one singular striker. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like you have effectively changed your formation via the personnel on your roster, and on paper, because what I will say is we didn't get a lot of Guma time last split, and I have no qualms with that. We got two series, right? I get it, but first off, no one really gave a fuck about the LCK Cup. Even like whilst it was happening, teams were like, yeah, it's the LCK Cup. First stand would be fun, I guess, right? So that was the perfect time to like test it out. So you've got your change of personnel because Doran's there, right? You've lost your Messi, right? In Zeus.
Yeah.
You now have a big guy who in the top lane who maybe wants to hold up the ball, right? He wants to slow down play. You have no threat. You have no threat anymore. Because Guma's not the guy. So even if we to bring it back to the football thing and draw the direct comparisons, it doesn't make sense. You want to change out personnel that makes sense for the whole roster, and that is just a sports and competition thing, period. So again, the business side, the fan side, that shit really shouldn't matter, because imagine now, Dom said it already. Imagine being Guma coming back into the system, coming back into this environment after all of this bollocks has happened, and now not only is the pressure probably higher than ever for you to perform, imagine you come in and shit the bed. What does that look like now? Or T1 plays poorly, like holistically. What does that look like now? Where do you go as T1? What do you actually do? Do you just sit there and suffer? Do you keep Guma in the situation? Do you do the probable correct thing and put Smash in to see just to see what happens? Right?
Yeah.
That's why I hate, more than anything, the fan sentiment, the culture. That is why I hate the decision for. More than anything is the integrity side of what it actually is to compete, because we've had a lot of the sentiment around like, fans first, entertainment first, with like the fearless discussion and debate, and it feels like that kind of overarching sentiment is maybe starting to creep into decisions. Well, it's crept into decisions with T1. I hope it's not something, and again, that's why I talk about the precedent that it could set. I hope it's not something that creeps into more than just T1 and broader decisions made, whether it's teams or otherwise.
All right, we have sports analogy this to the actually soccer analogy, football analogy this time.
Yeah, don't make me say soccer again.
Here's the quick one. You're Jay Cutler. You join the Miami Dolphins. You're thinking you're throwing deep balls, jump balls to Brandon Marshall, and your tallest receiver is Jarvis Landry at like 5'11". That's kind of what happened. You got to change how the fuck you played the game. All right. That was a lot of this episode of Fraud Alert. Let us know what you think of all of it, because so much news came on out from the play statement, the I guess the T1 response. If you are a T1 fan, would love to hear from you. That'd be pretty interesting. If you're a sports fan, did the Manchester United reference make a lot of sense to you? Because that made a shit ton of sense to me. And how do you think T1 and to be fair, the play agency should move forward with this non-decision decision that it seems like is going to happen. Like, are you happy if you wanted justice for the play agency? Like, is this good enough? Like, I feel like the whole goal and the reason why the play agency brought this up was so that they could clear their name and their reputation. And I feel like they did. I feel like they did. T1 comes out of this not looking better. They had to make another statement. The play agency now can sit back and be like, yeah, cool. We will protect you from shenanigans. And also, we won't be messed around with. We won't be slandered. So let us know in the comments below where you stand on all of this. Sheesh. All right. Well, if you want to be in good standing, a great way to do that is looking good. And to help you do that are our friends over at Into the AM. That one was pretty good. I liked that one. Our friends over at Into the AM have a lot going on over on their website. They have a great setup here with some of the deals that they've got. Graphic tees are currently on the way over at Into the AM in terms of a sale. They have a lot of different designs. I myself wear the bomber jacket. High quality materials are used to make it, and it leads to a premium look for you to stand on and stand with. So for our friends over at Into the AM, they are doing a unique sale for us. So one thing that they're doing is they're collaborating with us here over at LFN with a pretty sick design for those of you that follow us. We've got like a very much knight kind of look, an old knight. We're fighting against boring ass takes, incorrect takes here in esports, and that's thanks to our friends over at Into the AM. So once more time, Into the AM has a site-wide sale, 60% off until April 6th. Save an additional 10% off using our link, intotheam.com/LFN, and visit the Last Free Nation Discord to give feedback on our latest t-shirt design collaboration with the Into the AM design feedback channel. Thanks to our friends over at Into the AM. That's one more time, intotheam.com/LFN. Look good and support your favorite podcast network. Thanks to our friends over at Into the AM. All right. That was a lot of fraud alert. Now it's time to dive into just early takeaways from the only league that has kicked off and almost done with their first portion of the season. It is the LPL. They have had several matches, and like we said at the top of the show, best of ones. Very different, very unique in terms of their split placements. You have the top teams, the top two teams in the four groups that were split up. Make it into Group Ascend, so they'll be playing the hyper matches, the ones that I guess are playing against the top teams. It'll be 10 teams in that, and then the bottom 6 teams will move to Group Nirvana, where at risk are 2 teams potentially not playing for the rest of the year, which is craziness. That you lose a couple of best of ones, you get unlucky there, and then potentially after another group stage, you're out by I think it's June. No more League of Legends for you until next January, 6 months off. But that's further down the line. How have the matches been so far here, Dom? As we've seen some unique adaptations to the lane swap meta, and we've seen some unique picks. Obviously, Neferi has come on out a ton in the jungle. But what has jumped out at you about the matches so far?
I mean, there's a ton of variance. Like, still, generally, the teams you expect to be good are good, and the teams that are bad. So you're not getting like huge differences in terms of like standings. I think every team that was expected to be top 2 has been top 2. So that's, I guess, good. But I will say that like the game just seems really weird right now in terms of like the prios. I mean, it just feels really strange to be like, oh yeah, we have to make sure that we, ban Neferi every single game on blue side, and we'd rather give them things like fucking like Rumble and shit like that. Like, that just seems so insane to me that Neferi is just considered the best champion in the game, because normally an assassin will have conditions that need to be met for it to be good in the game. It's like, oh well, they have squishy targets or they don't have much peel. There'll be something that makes it seem like, oh, this would be a good game to play this champion. But it feels like right now the idea is like, yeah, just blind pick Neferi. You're just picking OP champions. It's like Gwen, Neferi. Can we just get either of these champions? Good. Okay, do we need to build the comp around it? Nope, just let it exist. They get hard counterpicked. Doesn't matter. Like, these champions will just be good. So I think obviously it's really weird to go through BO1s after doing Fearless for so long. But the best of ones are essentially over. There's a couple more best of ones tomorrow, but the idea is that it's going to be best of threes from here on out. So we'll see how everything ends up going. Also, best of threes are a little bit different because you don't get to as many champions, but yeah, we'll see how it goes once everything is sorted out. Also, new patch will be nerfing those, so it's kind of like just LPL and LEC that get the taste of this patch, and I guess a little bit of LCK will be, we'll be on it.
Yeah. Jamada, what has jumped out at it other than, I guess, Neferi so far for you?
Lane swaps being gone. I some teams are getting a little bit more exposed. Some teams are feeling a little bit better about lane swaps being not here, right? I think kind of along the lines of what Dom was saying around teams being good that we expect to be good. BLG, I think one of their weaker points was generally how they handled a lot of lane swaps, especially when it felt like they weren't prepared for a lane swap. How they would adapt on the fly always felt kind of either just objectively weak or just very unorthodox, right? And I think it led to a lot of situations where they'll get punished a bunch. No lane swaps, no complications. They've got laners that will just dominate their counterpart a majority of the time, right? And then the other part is the teams who have maybe gotten a little bit more freedom because of lane swaps generally kind of getting you to mid games a little bit more coastably. I don't know if that's really the right way to frame it, but I'm sure you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
You get to just kind of surf your way there comfortably, and I think TT. I mean, granted that group is just it's AL and the rest. But after TT's split one performance, I think people were maybe a bit overhyped on TT as a whole. Weirdly, I think it's one of those things where it's like, whoa, new team, like air quotes, new team, kind of jostling with the top dogs. Is this going to be cool? Is it going to be fun? It's like, well, the best of ones haven't looked so great, and I think some of the meta has not necessarily been super favorable to them, mostly in part because of the lane swaps. I don't necessarily think they have, the premier players to kind of go toe to toe in standard lanes, unfortunately. So yeah, I think it's been fun to watch because I love the LPL. I'm just kind of sad that we're in this best of one bit. That's obviously we get tomorrow for the tiebreakers for the third place, and that's it. Then we're into the best of. So it's been great, and it's just been fun to track how these teams are trying to kind of see where the dust is settling with the meta. Gwen and Neferi spoke about the mid lane pool is what's kind of interesting to me. You saw the not pseudo globals, the actual globals rise. Talia and Galio kind of rising in prio a little bit.
Best match so far for me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Dom, but I feel like I guess the best in terms of like the most unique thing that you watch when you're just grinding out so many VODs was the Weibo Billy game in day 5. The second time that they play, it was mainly a kind of a lane swap situation that they tried to flip into and then flip back out of. Weibo tried to punish Bin, and it didn't quite work out. They got zoned from the lane when the bot lane went top. They dive Bin. Bin was able to get the XP, level 6. He's on Rumble. They flip back down to bottom side and can't get back to their tower because the bot lane of Billy, as well as the jungler, were preventing them from getting back in. So then they flip back to the top lane and just kind of miss a wave. It was a unique, like, we always get to see like refined lane swaps by the end, and it's like, okay, procedurally, this is how things work. It felt like we were figuring out in that game how this new world of lane swap works.
Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where you got to see them overload one side, and they just were able to do that one more time. I think that they messed up by going bot. They should have just ran back top and just completely split mapped because they did have like grub advantage and stuff like that. But they didn't get punished super hard because Jhin ended up having swiftness boots. So the fact that they walked to the wrong place, it's like the fastest AD carry you could have at getting back to where you were before. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty interesting situation to watch that. I think that game was really fun. There was also that AL game yesterday that was just a complete like insane banger. It was just a million kills in a game. Sometimes AL just does that for games. But yeah, I'd say overall, like it's been fun and it's been pretty light on LPL because you're not doing Fearless, so you don't have to remember as much stuff. And a lot of the games are also pretty one-sided because you have the teams that will be in the Ascend group playing against the Nirvana group, which is the only time that will happen for the rest of the year, pretty much.
Yeah. One more if you want a quick VOD review on just weird shit that has happened in these best of ones. The very last game of the group so far, doing B, world champ doing B, spring split, MVP doing B, 1-11-2 on Pantheon. He was chasing the global death record in a single game where Fun Plus Phoenix needed to win this match, did win this match against Ninja Pajamas. They will make it on into the like last chance qualifiers and not immediately go to the Nirvana group. But they fisted the fuck out of him. And Shadow, yes, that Shadow, Mad Lion Shadow 2021 Worlds Shadow, 17-0-10 on the Neferi, just showing how busted that champion was here, Jamada.
Not a bad look from FPX, eh? I mean, a real big glow up for the Phoenixes for the first time. I mean,
super fake game.
Yeah, it was.
it was a game where NIP, for the context, NIP had already qualified for the next stage.
Yes.
So they just and so it didn't matter for them at all because all it is do you qualify top 2 or are you gonna have to battle for your spot in 3rd place or are you just in the Nirvana group in 4th place? They'd already locked top 2, so they just were essentially trolling. Like it looked like they just didn't give a fuck. They played Singed and shit. Like they were essentially just having a for fun game.
They did not give a monkeys. I think the best part for me is, I was waiting for the recording of this, but in the LPL English Discord, because for even more context, there was like a 30 or 40-ish minute pause before this game. So not only did the game almost not really matter, really, right? You then have this ridiculous pause. So it just felt like NIP were just protesting the fact that they had to just sit here for this pointless game for their point of view, and they said, "Fuck it, let's try and set a death record. Let's go, fucking run it down." Yeah, I mean, hilarious game. Doinby didn't quite set the death record though. He matched it with Umpty's LTA record. If you wanna, draw that line there.
Yeah,
just for the sake of
11
hating.
there.
Well, I mean, it was only in 22 minutes or something. Like the game ended before Baron spawned, so it's actually crazy how much he died. Like he actually just was running it down.
I was gonna say, I mean, if we wanted to draw a line, this kind of looked like Hanwha Life versus Team Liquid, where I was like, don't make it look too obvious here,
Yeah, it looked exactly like that.
If you lose, top esports is out. Whoa! But with that victory, FPX, they make it to the last chance qualifiers. Moham and the boys of OMG drop on down to the Nirvana group, and tiebreakers were not had. Otherwise, that would have been a very, very, very long day of LPL. Anyways, a lot of the best of ones are done. There's still a couple left for the last chance qualifiers. It'll be 2 best of ones. I'm off the top of my head. 2 best of ones to see who makes it to the next round. And then the losers will play best of 3. And then the loser of the second match and the winner of the lower bracket match will play one more best of 3 to see who goes to the Ascend and who goes to the Nirvana. That is just a crazy thing here, Dom. Again, if you are in the Nirvana group, the lower group of 6 teams, you could just be done by June. MSI is done, and that's actually teams that get knocked out and don't get to go to Worlds. That's like that for them. I don't like it. Do you like it?
Yeah, I like seeing teams that suck just get punished. I'm down for that. Like what I'm always advocating for is more and more severe punishment. So what I was hoping is that they keep on elevating it, and who knows, with the way that esports is going, they just become a complete blood sport where they start executing the teams that just end up being at the bottom. Like that's where we really fucking get the real competition, like old school gladiator style. That's the angle that we're pushing for now.
Anytime I think about it, I think about the possibility of not watching Rogue for half a year. And then I agree with this sentiment more and more, especially after last year. When did Rogue actually got knocked out in June, didn't they? I think it was the last day of June last year. and then we didn't have them from July until last January. That was fantastic. So you know what? I'm just gonna apply that logic to every league. If we just start dropping teams, just like straight up guillotine, that's it. Didn't come top 12. That's it. Gone. Boom. Up on the gallows, mate. You're done. I'm happy with that. I'm honestly. I will say, yeah, sucks for the orgs. There's a lot of like sponsor stuff, business wise, where it's like you run into. I suppose the reason why franchising was kind of brought in, like in the West at least, stuff like that. I don't care about that. Play well or just get gone, right?
Always been better for the quality of the league.
Yeah, if that is the setting and you know that's what's going on from, you know, the start of the year, I have no issues with it. That is what you are walking into.
It was the same thing though for LCK when it was OGN, right?
Yeah.
I think the issue was that the big teams were so big they could have two different organizations under it. Generally, every organization had two teams under it, not even just the SKTs or KTs of the world, but you remember like Optimus. There was like I think Zenix is it Zenit Optics and Zenix Prime? I think it was the Zenix organization, the Jin Air organization, the Budget Airline organization. It was so big that there was too much money in it, and also that the small teams didn't make it out, so you were just kind of weakening two teams. The idea was franchising then allowed you, for at least the LCK, to create one super strong team and then a academy system and have more players in the field and have it be a better investment. But you see teams like Rogue, which we should talk about now, sit at the bottom and have struggled because we're talking about Rogue because there are reports that one of the biggest esports organizations in the world, in the West actually, is interested in buying the slot. NAVI is reported to come on in to the LEC with Rogue, take over the spot. If you're not familiar with NAVI, they had the I hate saying this, but this is probably right. They had the faker of Dota 2 in Dendi way back in the day, one of the greats to ever have played a MOBA. They had the faker of Counter-Strike in Simple play for that organization and have a elongated career and be great. And now they get to have Larson, one of the greats of the LEC, potentially play. Okay, I tried my best to do it. They're buying into this lot. How do you feel like this changes anything? Does this change anything?
Still reported. It's still reported, so it's all alleged. We
speculation.
Don't know it's all speculation. That said, hey, you know what? Before I go on to the actual point, I'm gonna do a little bit of defending. Fair play to Larson. Wait. Fair play to Larson for actually queuing up some solo queue and getting 1K LP. It's a low bar. It's a low bar for Larson, but I'm glad he's done it. Now, anyway, on to the main point. Gone next year. I don't like, because if you recall, obviously Rogue, the merger was with originally Koi, and then the way that merger worked was it was effectively kind of just a name merger, and the management and most of the team stayed on under the Koi name, and then that undid itself. So the management has remained the same throughout the entire thing. If Navi come in and get rid of the management and get rid of the coaching staff, I'm bought in. Larson can stay, as far as I'm concerned. I think I've had this opinion for a long time. I think that the issue with Rogue being boring is a top-down thing and not so much a player thing. The only consistent things about this Rogue, iteration now is the head coach in Freddy. Long-time guy. No qualms of him, but philosophically, he just gets his teams to play boring League of Legends. And then Larson, who for a few years has perhaps had a couple of layback seasons and splits, and perhaps those zeros on the paycheck have gotten to his head a little bit. He's just calm. He's just having, if I can just coast and go 10th, 9th, 10th and make a paycheck, why show up?
Kind of based. Just lose the game on purpose.
Lose the game on purpose. Less game time, more money. More money per game played by going 10th. Who knows? I don't know what his contract's like. So maybe if he was actually winning, you'd get more. But jokes aside, I think if Navi were to come into the LEC, it'll be massive because Navi also have their own kind of little fan base, right? As far as I'm aware, they have a dedicated following because they've been around for so long. They've been performing in so many esports. So what I would assume, unlike unfortunately Rogue, who from what I understand don't really have a big following anymore. Definitely not in League of Legends. Uh, an entrance from
They have
Navi
no
could,
following. They have
yeah,
no following anymore.
an entrance from Navi could realistically also mean like another fan base to kind of to throw the shit with inside the league, and we've gotten that more and more over the last couple of years, for better or worse, depending on your narrative or your relationship with said some communities. Specifically, of course, the French speaking one. I don't mind UKC, but sometimes some of your ultras are fucking crazy. Yeah, I have no qualms. I think that with Rogue, the issue is like the top down thing. So if management goes and staff goes, I think it's a good move. As long as it's not kind of similar to the Koi thing where it ends up being more of a merger, and then we have GM stay, staff stay, and then you basically just get Rogue 3.0 at this point. Uh no issues. I think it would be wicked for the league.
Yeah, just a very unique development, just because we don't really get to see franchises sold too often. I
No.
guess Shopify Rebellion, TSM way back, a couple years ago. Obviously, KC banging the way on in via Astralis, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And so you've had mergers, Mad Lions Koi and then
Mhm.
Rogue Koi, that kind of thing. But the last selling, and I want to get this right. This is from the article that I read that broke it. The Esports Advocate and James Fudge, he's been in the space for 2 years. I usually trust what he says in terms of the validity of it, not the opinion piece, but the validity of it. The Carmine Corp deal was valued at $27 million with, I think it was like a 33%, Astralis maintaining 33%. So conversations for this moving on a little bit more for the business side of things here, potentially saying goodbye to Rogue, which has been around for quite some time, and hello to a very established esports franchise and brand in Navi, the Ukrainian Kiev-based organization. So we'll see what happens.
I've been there before,
there.
man. I've been to Kiev.
Have you really? Was that
Yeah.
tournament?
Yep. I am
What
Kiev. I
tournament was it?
competed there.
That must have been an IEM like 10
I am Kiev.
12 years ago, right?
13 years ago.
Did they have
Over
Counter-Strike
13 years
there?
ago. Yep.
Was
I
it
think so.
like, was there like a contingent? Did you just see like yellow shirts? I feel like that's a very unique home team feel for them.
Yeah, I mean they have like a cyber sports arena in Kiev. Well, I don't know if they still have it, but they had a cyber sports arena in Kiev. It was actually pretty cool. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It just had like food there, like it was a bunch of PCs. Yeah, they just had a cyber sports arena. So I went to Kiev in like the peak of Ukrainian winter, like late January.
Ooh.
Oh my god.
And like the
Fucking hell.
snow, it was actually just like feet of snow. Like you would put your you'd put your foot down and it would like be like to your knee. It was like what the fuck? Like you couldn't see where you were. It was crazy. It was an experience.
Damn. They didn't.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't shuttle you guys. Like I feel like.
Oh
it would
hell
just
no.
be-
No, back
no,
then
no,
it was
no.
every man for themselves.
Oh no, we didn't have a manager. We didn't have anything. We they
Yeah.
literally just give you a plane ticket to Kiev, and they're like, "Yeah, find your hotel." You just like get your own taxi and shit. I was like 21 years old, like trying to figure out like how the fuck do I like not die like going here.
That's so
I
funny.
didn't die though, so worth it.
IEMs. Gosh, what a great concept of third-party tournament organizers just running third-party events. I would love to host one of those things. That'd be cool. All right. Well, before we dive into our final bit here, the quick previews of the leagues that are about to start, and obviously the LEC, which is starting right now as of this recording. Got to remind you about our friends over at Turtle Beach. They give a great competitive advantage with how clear and precise the sound has been. With the spatial 3D audio, it improves your awareness in fast-paced games. They're damn comfortable, and obviously we use them as well. With the 80-hour battery life, it is unmatched, unlike any others on the market. And the Stealth 700, which is the model that just recently came out, has the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter system. That means you can seamlessly switch between your consoles and PC with just a click of a button, and it gets even better. While being connected to your console, the Stealth 700 can connect with your phone for music streaming or taking calls all at the same time. And I got to admit, I've been watching a lot of F1 lately. A lot of Drive to Survive, catching back on up as the season is kicked off. And that's where Turtle Beach can come on in, because I've been looking at their gaming accessories, like the racing sims, the wheels. So like
Mate.
you can find all of that over
I
at
agree.
Turtle Beach, along with flight simulators, controllers, keyboards, and mice. Turtle Beach is the ultimate cheat code. So head on over to turtlebeach.com right now for 10% off your entire order. And you can do that using the code SPIKE. That is turtlebeach.com. Use the code SPIKE for 10% off your entire order. And after you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please show your support to Lash Free Nation. Tell them we sent you. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience today with Turtle Beach. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. All right. This has been a mammoth episode, but we're going to give our quick final takes here on in the Galaxy Brain Club discussion. I feel like any of this stuff, I think Fraud Alert could have been Galaxy Brain Club, because we pulled that shit to Manchester United. That was one of the best analogies we've done ever. Let's get into it. LCK, LTA, and LEC expectations here for the Galaxy Brain Club. All right, let's do LEC first, since they're currently playing. You know, it's on, and by the time that hopefully this gets out, we'll have covered it a little bit. Best of threes in the LEC. How about that? It's not Fearless best of ones anymore. That's a good start. What do we want to see from these squads, and what do we expect from these teams? Can Carmine Corps stay on top? Where does Fnatic end up? Like, we assume that G2 will continue to improve and do well as they become more cohesive with their new roster. Obviously, Los Gigantes have a Gigante Cole over at the jungle position. What do you see from the role so far, or the league so far here, Jamada?
I think just very quickly, the way that I can't always do the pronunciation properly the way you do it. Gigantes. They're going to be getting coal for Christmas. They keep playing like this. That's how I see this trajectory, mate. Them aside, I think the top of the table is going to look very, very similar to what we saw in Split 1. I think what we're going to be looking at, I beg your pardon, is more about the intricacies of how G2 bounce back from losing finals, because I don't know about everyone else, and I've already seen people's like tier lists and stuff. I feel like G2 are still the team to beat. Weirdly, I feel like I'm probably in a minority in this, but I have more faith in G2 basically bouncing back and being strong numero uno more than I have in KC maintaining top form as the number one team. I'm happy to eat those words. And as for Fnatic, they played, as of this recording right now, they're 1-0. They beat Giant X. They almost threw the second game. I have no faith in Fnatic now. Winter was their split to win. If they don't win Winter, I'll stay on that opinion. I just don't see them winning a title throughout the rest of the year. I think they're kind of just going to be a bit like gridlocked to fourth through second. And if they end up winning a split at all this year, the likelihood is that a G2 or a KC showed up on the day and just played poorly. I would see that being the outcome more than Fnatic coming into a series, into a finals, and having a good series in the finals. So I think as far as expectations are, I'm kind of just looking at, G2 KC. But for me personally, I'm a bit of a G2 glazer, to be fair. I'm not afraid to say that. I have a lot more faith in that system and the players on that lineup to bounce back. My only concern will continue to be Labrov. I still don't feel like the trade-off of losing Mickey X for Labrov was worth it, but at the end of the day, I still think Lebrov is a pretty quality player, and it's just about him being able to raise his floor so that he stays consistent. Because I think, weirdly, that was kind of the narrative around him coming onto the roster. It was, hey, Mickey X has incredibly high highs, and he is undoubtedly the best support in Europe, but he also has games where he just drops an absolute stinker, goes 0-7-1, like no redeemable qualities inside of that game. And
Yep.
it happens at like important integers of like a tournament or you know a bracket run where you can't afford for it to happen. Whereas that was kind of supposed to be the trade-off with LeBron, and it's not necessarily fully worked out as of yet. So that's where my eyes are with Lebrov and G2, and then I'm kind of looking at Fnatic and Koi below them as the kind of like, hey, I don't want to say dark horse because that feels like the incorrect way, but like the teams that could break easily into top two with some adjustments in how they've been looking at the game.
Yeah, kind of funny how it feels like the matches where Lebrov dropped the bruh. It was earlier when it mattered less, and then Mickey's kind of been known, like I guess historically had like the stinker in important matches later on,
Mm.
but um yeah, I think that inversion was kind of very, very interesting. Dom, what do you think of these teams? And give me a Movie Star Koi. There it is. The person that always corrects me for saying it wrong. Movie Star Koi. Movie Star Koi. With JoJo and the rest of the España boys.
I feel like that team is just cooked. Like they just look
Yeah?
so out of sync. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that team is just bad. Like they could probably get fourth because everyone else is terrible, but it's not going to be like a close fourth. I really don't like how JoJo plays with the rest of the team. I mean, honestly, he was playing worse than Frescowi in a lot of the big moments. Because the thing about Frescowi is he actually kind of like would be kind of clutch. Like he would be good in some of the bigger games. For example, like when he was like solo killing caps and stuff, people were like, "What the fuck? Frescowi solo killing caps, solo killing humanoid." That type of stuff felt, pretty good. Whereas like JoJo, it feels like he just doesn't have any discipline. Like he doesn't know what he should be doing. Doesn't even look mechanically super good anymore. So I'm pretty low on them. The main thing I'm watching LEC for is I want to see K Corp's improvement, like what they end up doing, because I think that they have like a very defined style, but that style will not be good forever. Like maybe it's good enough to win another LEC split because LEC just doesn't have anyone that knows how to play like a fast-paced game. But if they go internationally again, they're going to need to adapt when it comes to how they play multiple different drafts, especially in Fearless. So I want to see if they can move themselves to have more plays in the playbook, and I think that's what would make K Corp like a really strong number one seed, is if they were able to just develop a few more things to be able to bounce back between depending on teams that they play against.
There's also the individual tendencies, and I brought this up on I want to say it was last episode. I'll do it again. I'll happily be a broken record. Stuff like Kalist, like I'm gonna call it the ego thing because I think it's more ego than it is confidence. I think it bleeds into ego more than it is confidence. Of just like stepping up on waves and like trying to kind of heat check whoever he happens to be laning against in the mid game, because it would cost them game states in the LEC, and it cost them game states against HLE at first stand as well. Granted, they would have lost that series anyway, but the point being, it's like you go from bad to worse, yeah, and it's the same repeatable offense, right? And I think it's so fixable that I hope that is something that they have internally addressed, and we just see less of out of Kalist. But he is such a hype machine that I have a feeling he's just going to be the same. And I think he's just going to he will be, I can't remember where the quote comes from, but he is going to be a habitual line stepper. It's the Chappelle show. He is going to be the habitual line stepper. Time and time again. That is just going to be his thing. And I worry that his toe is just going to get chopped off every single fucking time, because I think it is so predictable that eventually teams will just go, "Hey man, Kalista's stepping up middle wave. Let's just go fucking throw Sejuani arm, just get a free pick," right? So I want to see with that, like all the other stuff, like around KC, fuck off, Moth, great, but like the individual tendencies around stuff like that, kind of, drop off. Things like if Yike is having a bad game, trying to help Yike stabilize inside of that bad game, right? instead of it kind of being like a tumbling effect where it just goes like from bad play to bad play to bad play to losing play, right? To just straight up game losing play. Stuff like that. If they can clean up those things to me, then yeah, like this KC lineup goes from pretty damn good to like in the realm of pretty scary domestically, and even goes to like internationals, and you go, hey, like they can take like good games off of good teams from the LPL and from the LCK from time to time.
All right. You brought up for Scowie. Do you know quiz time? Do you know where he is at right now?
Their academy team.
That's right, Movistar Koi Phoenix with friend of I guess my friend. I was going to say friend of the show. I guess he Dom, you don't know this. He loves watching it. Treats. And the name of my the favorite named player in all of League of Legends, Spooter. Top laner. Okay.
Spooter.
That's all.
That sounds like-
Spooter.
Sounds like, yeah.
You know what?
Like it sounds like what comes out when people hear that I think LCK is better than LPL. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, tell it to me. Spooter. All right.
Spood all over the place.
But before we move on, because we did talk about it, I suppose the actual move. Can we get a heat check on Vitality? Because to me, Vitality play a really weird game when it comes to the LEC, like comparatively to the rest of the league. And it felt like they consistently mechanics checked a lot of teams and got themselves into like out of losing game states because of it. And I feel like a lot of the reasons why they're in those losing game states, as much as I love you, Hilly, was because of Hilly, right? Dom, you said it yourself, and I agree with you. I think a lot of the rest of the teams in the LEC outside of the top 4 are kind of dookie. But I actually see Vitality as the team that is above that dookie. Do you think that this role swap and maybe some consistency could get Vitality into a top 4? Because I think they're the black sheep team to me. Where
I think it's BDS. I think BDS. I think if 113 can just play a little bit better, I think that team probably has the highest potential to break out of that. Because Vitality, to me, they're just like so undisciplined. They're so ridiculous in like the way that they play the game.
Do you know what though? I think that undiscipline came from Hilly.
Okay. I think that they're all just generally like that, to be honest. Like even like when I see how like Knock plays side lanes, he seems like really raw. I think Lingus is pretty solid, but when I look at the rest of their players, there's hype players. Like Karzi's the type of guy that can throw fucking big ass leads. You know, like he's just that type of guy. He has the throw in him. So yeah, I don't know. I think it comes from from all of them, to be honest. Maybe Niski can help with some stability, and we'll see. We'll see how things go. But I think that BDS is the team that it's like I can see them being good if they just didn't suck, you know. But they just suck at league. But
that's how I feel. That's how I feel about Vitality.
Yeah, like I feel like BDS could like they have the aura of a good league team. It's just unfortunate that they're horrible at the game. But if they become like better at the game, I could see them being.
You know, good. I will say, I want to give some flowers to Striker. He's the head coach. I think he normally runs a really solid ship. So out of a lot of the coaches in the LEC, because I think there's always a bad rap for coaches just generally, and I think it's pretty well earned a lot of the time. He's one of the few that talks about like philosophy, habits, all of the things that like as a head coach, someone like you should be talking about, and like constantly like trying to hammer home, not also like behind the scenes, but also like for when you're on the broadcast, like trying to make yourself not look like a dumbass. Striker's really fucking good. So I think that he could also help like outside, to make sure BDS maybe become that team that tries to break out of that shit mold from the bottom off.
Yeah, and then hammering this home, one of these players that have elongated their careers and changing how they play the game. Here's Niski, 8 years in his professional career. I guess at the top level at least, because he joined LCS when I joined LCS, and so it was one of my first interviews. I always rooting for him at that time. He now makes that switch to support. Going to be very, very interesting. All right, let's knock out LTA. LTA.
C9 wins everything. That's all I'm saying.
I think he's
C9's time.
It's the
He did
contract,
good.
isn't it?
Yeah, he did good. Like in split one, being pretty neutral and fair. So I think the pass is okay. How do you see this here,
I
Jamada?
unironically just think we're the best team in North America.
I know you would, but that's isn't that part of just your competitive makeup as like being
No,
there?
it's
You
just-
take a
I mean,
look
I
at that
just watched
roster;
it.
it's there.
No, I mean it just comes from our practice. Like we didn't play that many states. I mean, if you think about like how our split went, we won we won 3 best of 3s and then lost 1 best of 3, and that was our split. That's just how it works. Like there's no double elimination. Our semifinals was best of 3, and it's like we lost like 1 best of 3 where we had, just like a bad draft on game number 3, and then we ended up losing. Even like game 1 was completely winnable. So I just watch them scrim day in and day out. I watch them play in Korea. I help them, however I can. And I just legitimately just believe that we're the best team. Like I think that we should have won. I mean, the players think they should have won too. Like when they did the interviews afterwards, they're like, yeah, that was pretty fucking unlucky, but we should have won. Like I don't know, it just has the makeup of a championship team. So I think that C9 should just win.
So you guys are coming third.
Who?
Behind who?
No, I mean, I think I would probably say it's a hard toss up. I could honestly see the top 3. Top 4 is so close in my head. I think that lane swaps being gone, I wonder how it's going to impact. To me, I think TL, because their bot lane looks really good in lane. And then also FlyQuest, because I'm curious around how like their map play adjusts from lane swaps being in the game to just sort of standard lanes to, are we going to see kind of the soft things that we see in LPL where it's like we end up in a lane swap after a couple of minutes and then you kind of have to navigate the map after that. If I had to place it just off rip, I would probably say TL, C9, Fly, 100 Thieves. That order.
I'm surprised because everyone always like has been rating Fly so highly. Like I've noticed that everyone like I don't know why FlyQuest has this like, okay, so they were second.
They've got good PR.
And then they got a first place, and then they got like a third, fourth, but they lost to us, who was the other third, fourth team, like last split. And somehow like them just, and to be honest, even their win versus Team Liquid, that was a moment where Team Liquid is majorly favored, and it felt like if TL didn't just lose to the minion backdoor, then they were just going to win the series because they had no chance in that game, and they just felt like they were just better throughout the game, right?
Yeah.
So you look at this, like I don't understand why people view FlyQuest as if they've just been like dicking down North America for like years. Like that's kind of like people act like they're G2 in a way because they had like one close series against Gen G, and they like kind of fluked the finals win versus TL.
Whippo's social media work has shrouded everything else. We've got all of this. I don't want to use the A word, but we've got all of this social media aura. Just forget what's going on the Rift, man. It's all right. Whippo was streams, scrims on stream. Yeah, FlyQuest are fucking great. FlyQuest, like, don't get me wrong, fantastic team, and what they achieved at Worlds last year, great. And I was flying that flag too. That said, I still after what we got out of TL and what we've kind of saw last split out of 100 Thieves, I have a feeling that Fly are finally going to coast, not in a top 2, like kind of comfortable looking setting for a change. And that's where we actually get them land. Also, it's not because you're here. I have faith in your ability to have positive impact on a team, Dom.
Thank you, bro.
You've got the good kind of brains and mentality that I would want inflicted if I was a manager. I would want your kind of philosophy put onto a team. So take that from your good not friend Jamada and run with that.
Okay,
I'll do it.
So I just want to give some context here in terms of like why I think team fans externally favor FlyQuest, because other than like I trust you with so much stuff, Dom, right? Like with a lot of the game content and stuff. But for those that don't have access to you, or you being like, trust me, bro, I see scrims, you see a roster full of guys that were on the decline, haven't had the best splits. Vulcan not having the best split. Thanatos seemed okay, had moments, but clearly was playing different than everyone else. Sven coming back into the league, whereas this FlyQuest roster is stuck together and has had like opportunity to continue to grow. You have the guy that's been running the league in Inspired still there, and then the new MVP in Quad. Like I just feel like that's the continuity of that also helps with it. Whereas,
But I mean, like you
Cloud9's
would think
putting it
that
together.
if you had the continuity, right? Like, okay, so like their first split, they ended up losing versus us. It was like, I mean, the one game they won was like a 40-minute game, and then we just like kind of stomped them 2 games, and then they lost 100 Thieves afterwards, right? Like that was their best of 3, which was considered the softer opponent than TL. Like for example, we got 2-1 by TL, and then TL just completely smashed 100 Thieves 3-0. Like none of the games were close, as opposed to like where we took a game and then we had one close game, one game that we stomped them, one game that they stomped us. When you look at a team like FlyQuest, if they have that continuity, wouldn't that be like most valuable at the beginning of the year over the other teams that are just like trying to put it together right now? Because like theoretically, if you're keeping the team together, shouldn't you have like a better starting point than these other teams? And if they're losing to those teams now, what does that say for the trajectory of the FlyQuest roster?
I agree. So where I deviate and take your line of thinking is, how about that 100 Thieves roster? Who again has a right? It's just they're so fucking old school North American, lack of a shit ton of structure, which now Cloud9 has. They've got a lot of the coaching infrastructure, which we've all been clamoring for, and you're a part of it now for such a long time. And they like stunt FlyQuest and couldn't get over the hump against Team Liquid, which was pretty disappointing. So you look at all 4 teams and you're like, this feels like a rock, paper, scissors plus one more, and it's just a fucking circle of teams that all just kind of beat each other and don't take into. And the other reason why people aren't looking at Team Liquid is because they didn't fucking make it out of first stand, and it was like embarrassing and frustrating. And then, you know, they had the comms come out, and maybe it makes you feel better. If you're soft, maybe you're like, why is APA yelling at people? But like otherwise, I feel like you've got 4 teams that kind of complete the circle of suck. We have the LCK circle of suck. This is like the NA top tier circle of suck, where you know those teams are kind of on top of each other. And so you just kind of pick at what point do you enter the circle of suck, and fans just follow from there.
Yeah, I don't think 100 Thieves is a bad team. Like I think that they're a pretty good team. I just think that they're just very one-dimensional in the way they play. Like that's just how they are. So I mean, it's different than K Corp, because K Corp is like the control good, like the control one-trick team right now. Like that's how K Corp plays. They play like solid control, zone setup, stuff like that. 100 Thieves is like the opposite side, where they play like the really aggressive. They're
volatile.
Magic the Gathering red deck, so to speak.
You can guess, like if it was boxing, you could guess out 100 Thieves by like round 3, right? Like 12 round fight, you could guess them out.
But they could knock you the fuck out in round 1 and 2, you know?
Yeah, they can beat anyone. Like 100 Thieves can beat anyone in LTA, because they can just have like a game where they're all vibing, and like, I mean, their players are extremely like, I would say their mid jungle are just extremely good players. Like Quid and River, they're insane players, so they can beat anyone. And then like Sniper is somebody who can obviously take a lane off you, just win a game. So yeah, I don't think that they're a bad team. I just think that they're just like in the mix. I just feel like it's a 4-team region. When I watch LTA, I just feel like there's 4 good teams and 4 not good teams, and that's the region.
All right. Two more just things I wanted to touch on here. You get Seos in the country, right? I think Seos, because they Shopify Rebellion was using Zazel, and then Leon finally get to have Lions, I guess it's Leons. I forgot. Leons join the roster. That's just like, regardless of this mishmash of like Licorice in the top lane, and then you got the two Latam players in Audi and Leon's, and then you've got the two Koreans there. Just having your player there, having your roster together, I think is pretty interesting and hopefully helpful. And then I think for Disguised and Dignitas, you just hoping that the boot camp worked. You're pulling for your favorite players on that team and hoping that things go well there. But yeah, any final thoughts?
Maybe 7th to 6th, like Korean boot camp, baby. That's it.
All right. Okay, and then finally, let's move on over to LCK. Boom, LCK storylines galore. For me at least. I mean, T1, Genji.
Why is Bro's lineup
Hanwha.
blow it up?
Oh,
like, why is that their slogan?
Because the L and R sound are basically the same. There's no distinction.
Oh, like bro it up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But so when
up.
you
Okay.
when you spell it otherwise, it's like a pun, right? You can do either one. The only time that you can do like one is if there's two of the R symbol, then it's almost always an L. Okay. But since it's bro it up. So we're broing it up. That's what chat's going to be filled with.
Bro it up.
Not the roster, the opponents.
All right. Do they know what blow it up means in terms of like roster?
You know what?
Are they aware?
For you, I will ask. I will ask, and when
somebody says blow up the roster, they mean that they want the roster to be dissolved because it's so fucking bad.
One said the blow up the roster. They just said blow it up.
Yeah, but
and obviously that wasn't a threat. That was just an opinion, and you shouldn't yell that in the airport.
Don't bring them to the airport if like they start getting really hyped. Jesus Christ! A disaster waiting to happen.
A sneaking suspicion that when Morgans or Polus, we might have
Polu presidents. Yeah,
we have some chatters. I think we've got to blow
it up.
No.
Okay, never mind.
Like we've got a wide range of use and mileage that we could get out. Where is he going?
Jesus Christ!
Oh God. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe look, Korean fans. 2 dGon.
Morgan Hombach.
Oh, it's signed.
Closer. Wait, that's Closer's signature. Ain't no way, bro. It can't be Closer's signature. It's CR. Oh my God. All right.
That's right. Asia Masters superstar bull right here.
Jesus. I thought that said bum. I'm gonna be honest.
Blow it up. Blow it up.
Blow it up.
Oh my God. I'm so proud of it. I love these guys. The lovable last placers looking for something here. So in the LCK socials, every time like they'll post like an Instagram like post about the upcoming matches and then ask the English casters to pick one. And like I think someone picked like Genji T1 here in week 1. They're like, that's the key match. I think for me, this is a key week for the bros. You're gonna know early because they play I think Nongshim and BNK Firex. And wins are going to be hard to come by. And if you don't win these, it's going to be lots of weeks of asking to blow it up. So we'll see what happens with the bros moving forward. Oh shit. I'm already stressed. I'm stressed thinking about that series already. All right. Let's dive into the rest of it. Okay. I was trying to list the top teams, Dom, and then you brought in bros this time. It wasn't even me.
Well, because I just saw that shit and they fed me a banger. I'm like, I've been saying that shit about the roster for years now, and it kind of popped off considering it was about bro. So yeah.
All right. Here we have maybe 5 solid teams in T1.
5.
Yeah, I'd say 5. T1, Gen G, D+, Hanwha. Okay, maybe 4.
It's starting to feel like the clown meme with the rest of the military guys on the door stack, buddy.
Yeah, you're not exactly sure where KT and Nongshim stand afterwards. I mean, Nongshim were 4th, better than T1. And then DRX showed signs of life, and I just want to see...
Sorry.
I just want to see the fucking freaks play around Berserker. Just go in around Berserker like D+ played around aiming. Let him carry you to success. I'd be interested in that. Those are the early storylines for me. What do you guys kind of see here with the LCK? What do you want to see out of it?
T1, I gotta see what happens, bro. I gotta see what happens. I gotta see if they do well, if they don't do well, what the reaction is gonna be. I just gotta see it, man.
It's hard
T1
not to indulge in the T1 storyline after watching.
It's such a good storyline. Like, imagine they just start losing. Oh my god, it'll be so fun, bro. Please lose. Like, if they lose, if there's some downfall, oh my god, it will be amazing.
So T1 play week 1 against Gen G, and then week 2 Saturday showdown. The first match of that day is T1 Hanwha Life Esports. So they have like a easier path here. DRX first, and then there's first match of week 2 is KT. So DRX, Gen G, KT, and then Hanwha Life Esports. So big matches there for them. Hanwha and Gen G to kick things off, and then afterwards it's a lot of the mid-table battles. It's KT versus D+. It's the DRX versus DNF. Like, this week is pretty equal, I would say, and then afterwards we get a lot more of the lopsided matches. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes up. But T1, always the storyline, and this season no different. We'll see how they do as they try to look for their first LCK title in 3 years. 3 years of T1 not winning LCK but making it to the World Finals. Crazy. Final thoughts here, Jamada? Sorry, I cut you off earlier.
No. I was just saying, and winning. It's weird to think that they've not found anything domestically for this long, but they've been getting the rings, which has led to the situation we're in now, realistically. Because otherwise, I think the T1 fans would have been saying to blow up the T1 roster. You know, just get a shake-up going. Get a shake-up going, you know. Don't say okay to me, Dom. Like,
he's like, oh shit, they're gonna come after me now. I saw how Ox was going after them.
I just didn't know that you hate. I didn't know that you hated T1 the same way I do.
I thought we were just kidding when you said you hated Faker.
Let's not do this one.
You
again.
Really hate Faker? Wow.
He really wants.
The only time I've come close to actually ever disliking Faker was when I walked into the O2 last year for World's Finals and realized, and this isn't even like a hate thing. This was more of a realization of how big Faker actually was. I obviously walked in as a BLG fan because why wouldn't I? Sat in that arena hearing every single play go BLG's way, and it was just like a cheer that you would expect out of that kind of crowd. And then T1 winning a play and it just erupting.
It's
like
a roar.
Mad. The difference was mental.
It's
and then
crazy.
even when I was outside and I was asking fans, who are you here to support? Like, and why? Every single time they said T1, they didn't say T1 for T1 or the team. Almost every single answer was, I am here for Faker. That was it. That was the like 80%. And it was like, I haven't even really watched League this year. I managed to get tickets anyway. I'm here for Faker. And you know what? After watching that glorious bastard make that turnaround happen in the top lane and ruining the opportunity for BLG to get a world trophy again. It was hard for hate to not brew in my heart. I just gotta say it. But that's it. That's the closest I've ever actually been to hating the GOAT of League of Legends. Because he's a difficult man to hate. He is. He's a likable fan.
I think for me it was the Hanwha Life thing when like they got 3-0'd by Hanwha Life, and then he made like the statement that they that like the situation wasn't fair. that bothered me, to be honest. Or he's like, the situation like hasn't been fair.
Oh, the practice setup and the
the
stream,
DDoS,
the
yeah.
DDoS.
Yeah, I was like, just let them have the win, bro. Like, please, like you're the fucking goat of all goats. Like, they could just win one like game and like get credit, please.
You know,
Then he helped me out, you know, because I was like, I don't think you should have said that, and I just got like insanely shit on. It's like, and this guy's allowed to co-stream. Like, people started emailing Riot to try to get me on like co-stream rights. I didn't even say anything crazy. I didn't even go like full hater persona. I'm like this like undermines the win from Honor Life. He shouldn't have said this. That was like the extent of what I said. And then he came out and he's like, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. And I was like, my goat. He said he shouldn't have said it, and then people started getting on my case for something else. It's like, sucks that people like Dom made Faker apologize like for something that he didn't even do wrong. It's like, how influential do you think?
You will never be in the right.
Yeah.
You will never be in the right.
Yeah, it was fucking insane. All right. That's it.
It's been a long ass episode. But here you go. Done and dusted. Our previews to the season. Obviously our thoughts on the T1 stuff. We went on not just the org structure anymore. We went on everything there. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of it. It's been great reading your comments. Supportive, not supportive. Also, last little bit, I met the G2 entity this week. I met the person or the entity. Great entity to have met. Very, very supportive of the show. Thank you so much, G2 entity. You heard us glaze here, and we continue to glaze greatness. That's what we do. And so thank you, G2 entity, for supporting LFN, just like all of you should. So like and subscribe all the channels. We just came out with a gaming channel as well, where we will be doing gaming coverage. If you like Sea of Thieves, we had access to the brand new Mike Morheim game that has come on out called Wildgate. They did a preview with the guy that does the Game Awards, and it was a lot of fun. We have our coverage there for that, and we'll have a lot more coverage of different video game stuff there. So make sure to head to LFN Gaming for subscription there. You don't miss any of those updates. And you won't miss any Power Spike, because we'll be back next week to cover all the action that happens in the world of League of Legends. Until then, thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to you all. Thanks to my co-host, and we'll see you later.